Hey friends, welcome to the recordings from the Study and Work in America International Student E-Summit. It was such an amazing webinar. I'm Rob. It was my privilege to help host this event. Thanks for everyone who tuned in, and for those who missed it, we're going to be sharing these recordings to help you guys, to guide you on your journey whether to study or work and get jobs here in America. This video is the recording of Soundarya, who talks about maximizing your summer, how to make the most of this time to prepare for upcoming studies, jobs, especially being stuck at home with the coronavirus right now. Great tips. Enjoy.
Well, I'm going to start with a very formal intro, which is saying thank you to Rob for pulling this together, because you guys might not know this, but he's been working for, I think, over a month from ideation to fruition on this entire e-conference. So thank you. And your presentation was also very insightful, Rob. I wish I'd known all of these things before I came, because someone had to tell people that getting a job is very difficult for these reasons. So I'm hoping that my presentation alleviates some of the fears that these guys might have. So by preparing beforehand, before they even come to the US. So yes, thank you all so much for waking up on a Sunday morning. I know it's not easy because I'm not a morning person, and I think I actually slept at 5 a.m. at Columbia every single day for the 3 semesters. So I deeply appreciate you guys waking up. I hope you're enjoying this conference so far, because I am. I'm very excited to be on this panel with all the other speakers who all have been working for years right now, creating content that you all can enjoy and reap value from. So I enjoyed all the talks yesterday. Specifically, I loved Nitin's story because I had no idea. I didn't know Nitin before this. So it was very humbling to hear someone's story where hard work was really the only way to succeed. And it's just amazing to be a part of these guys panel. So who am I? My slightly long name is Soundarya Balasubramani. I also go by Pooja, which is a totally unrelated nickname of mine, but feel free to use that. Presently, I'm working as an associate product manager at Salesforce. I work in the data science and security team here. Before this, I did my master's in management science and engineering from Columbia University. And before that, I did my bachelor's in technology in chemical engineering from NIT Trichy. So as you can see, I made a career transition from bachelor's to master's, but that's a story for a different day. A few things that I love. I love reading books. Anyone who's known me for a while would know that I love reading books, and what I love more than that is motivating others to read books, because I feel like technology has reduced our attention span so much the past 2 decades that you don't often see people who have the discipline and hard work ethic to sit down and read a book, which I still feel is one of the best ways to gain knowledge on a subject. So, I have book reviews on all the books that I've read before on Instagram and Goodreads. Feel free to check that out if you want some recommendations. I love writing. I've been writing for, I believe, 6 years now. I have written over 100 articles on topics in the domains of education, technology, business, and lately neuroscience, which is a field that's caught my attention a lot in the recent months. So here is my website, which I put a lot of work into to make sure it looks, decent, not great, but looks pretty good. As you can see, I'm a 23-year-old curious maverick. You will see this phrase curious maverick a lot. So here's the backstory. I think when I was 16 years old, I found the word maverick for the first time, and I saw the definition of it, and I loved it. And I've been using it since then. There's no other reason to use this title, but it just made sense even 7 years later. So I just stuck with it.
Soundarya,
yeah.
My favorite word is iconoclast, and it kind of is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was also a GRE word that I remember learning that.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first time I heard maverick, I was trying to find synonyms of it, and iconoclast is kind of struck with me. So
it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Over to you.
Yes. So as you can see, I send out a newsletter every 2 weeks, which I carefully curate. And it has 4 topics, overarching topics. There is an article on neuroscience and psychology for those who are interested in that. There is a productivity enhancing mobile app or routine that I follow, a list of best articles that I read in the last 2 weeks, and a glimpse into the book I'm reading. So I will be publishing my first book in a few months, but I will talk about that towards the very end of this presentation. I also briefly dabbled in making YouTube videos. This was, I think, back in 2018 summer. I have to thank Parth because he was very helpful back then in getting me started on, and a lot of other people also helped a lot. So thank you, Parth, and thanks to all the others. So I've made, I think, like a dozen or so videos. It was so much fun making them, but I realized after making them that, you know, my heart belonged to being a writer and an author, not a YouTuber. And also making videos takes incredible amount of effort. So I have nothing but respect for every single YouTuber out there and on this call as well. It's amazing. I will be posting one video soon though about the book. So if you guys want, you can subscribe for that. But you know, otherwise, I probably won't be too active on this. Right, coming back, I'm also a decent badminton player, and it is the only sport that I really love playing. And finally, I also love singing, but I'm not very good at it though. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The topic that is on all of your minds, the question that you all are thinking about right now. Do I actually know how to play the guitar? The guitar that you probably see in the background on my screen. The honest answer is no. I'm still learning how to play a bar chord, but hopefully I can get there soon. Having addressed that, I know some of you are also thinking about this little thing called the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. So, I mean, I know it is frustrating. I cannot imagine what you guys are going through. I mean, a lot of you must be wondering if your fall session is in person or if it's virtual, or if you need to defer your admission. I would have exactly the same question if I was in your shoe right now. So I did some research on this, and this is what I found. These were some quotes that I took some of the articles that I read. So Boston University says that while suspending fall semester is a possibility, it is not the one they're aiming for. Oregon says that they hope for a full return in 2020, but hope is not a strategy, and they want to prepare for every possible outcome there. And Arizona says that they are cautiously optimistic, but of course they'll prioritize the health and well-being of their community. What this glaringly says is that no one has made a decision yet, and every single university is going through the same phase, and all decisions right now are inconclusive. So I know that is frustrating because humans specifically hate uncertainty. Just psychologically, we hate when things are not certain. But I got reminded of something when I thought about this, and when I was researching on this. Do any of you know what happened on November 9th, 2016? If any of you can quickly think of it, put it in the chat box and I'll see if any of you are guessing it. Oh, someone guessed it. Someone named Lucifer said Donald Trump. Perfect. That is true. So Donald Trump became the president of the United States on November 9th, 2016. I still remember vividly because I was sitting in a classroom writing my final lab exam for what I want to say is a fluid mechanics course, constantly checking my phone, hoping that the examiner would not catch me, not because I was cheating on the exam, I was not. I was just checking to see the results of the election. And of course, he did win, as you know. I remember that as soon as I finished the exam, I rushed to the computer lab at NIT Trichy. I logged on to Quora, and I typed something like this. How is the victory of Donald Trump going to affect me as an international student aspiring to pursue my master's in the US? You see, back then, there was this scary premonition that if he became president, he would take away H-1B visas from immigrants. He would not let students like myself study in America, that he would make getting a job extremely difficult. Fast forward a few years, it was extremely difficult getting a job. It was probably the most difficult thing that I did. In fact, getting an internship was because getting an internship was so hard, I was prompted to make a YouTube video on that. So you can understand how difficult it was. But I would say it was not because of him or his policies. At least I feel that none of his policies impacted me directly in getting a job. Getting a job was difficult because of all the reasons that Rob just spoke about, which is, you're going through a huge monumental cultural transformation by going from one country to another, where you have to almost unlearn every single etiquette and manner and concepts that you've learned in the last 21 years. So that's why it was difficult. And I also, think back to 2008 when we had the housing collapse and the financial recession. Those who graduated then have begun posting on LinkedIn their stories, and it is really inspiring. if you think about this person's story, which has now gone viral on LinkedIn, he talks about how he had an offer and it was taken away, and how he was angry and afraid, which is completely understandable. But he's in a much better place right now, and I feel like at this time when things are not certain, I would encourage you guys to go and search for these posts and read them, because sometimes hearing someone tell you that things are going to be okay really helps, especially someone who's been through something similar to what you're going through right now. So I know this year the situation is even more grim, and obviously this is unprecedented for all of us right now. So I recommend you to do two things. First, be updated of what is happening right now. I mean, you don't have to check the news, every 1 hour, but check it once a day or once in a few days. And there is this really good website that I found called Inside Higher Ed. So they give you live updates on coronavirus related to higher education. So go and check that out. Maybe sign up for a newsletter update or something, and just follow that every few days. And once you do that, the next thing you need to do is understand this. There are things you cannot control in the world. But then, at least for the next 15, 20 minutes, I want you to think about the things that you can control, which is your time. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this seminar. In the next few months, discounting the time you sleep, discounting the time you spend with your family and your friends, which is very important. Time you spend on your hobbies, could be sports, could be playing the guitar, probably better than me. It could be work related to admissions. Even discounting all of that based on my, just crude math, I found that you still have 360 hours at your disposal. That is a lot of time in which you can do wonders. So what do you want to do? That's what I'm going to help you answer today. So let's get into the first task for you, which is revamping your online profile. I'm going to need some help from Rob right now to pull up the poll. Hey, Rob, can you help me with that? Okay, so I need you guys to tell me at what stage you are right now with your LinkedIn profile, so I can kind of assess how useful this is going to be for you. Okay, we have 2 pros. That's awesome. Perfect. It looks like 75, almost 75% of you have a LinkedIn profile but need help improving it, which is great, so that I know that what I'm going to say right now is going to be useful for you. Let's begin. So there were some incredible tips shared by Roshni yesterday on how to approach people and network once you have a LinkedIn profile. So I thought I'd cover the topic of how can you first make a brilliant profile so that you can put your best foot forward when you go and start networking with people. I thought the best way to show you guys this is actually show you my current profile on the right versus a really bad profile of mine that I created voluntarily back in 2018 for a video. So as you guys can see, I have it open side by side. This is the good one on the left and the bad one on the right. Again, I'm not saying my profile is perfect or ideal in any way. It is definitely not. I did put a lot of work into it though over the last few years, constantly trying to make sure it's updated and making sure all the fields are filled. So let's go to it. So the first and foremost thing that someone sees when they come to your profile is your profile picture. I would recommend don't go to the extremes here. Don't have a picture which is your passport picture from when you were 18 years old, which looks nothing like you. That's not what you want. At the same time, you also don't want to take a selfie and then put that up on LinkedIn. Not professional enough. I would rather recommend having a semi-professional picture where your face is seen clearly. And ideally, you also want to have this circle in your LinkedIn profile. And to be honest, the circle means nothing. Let me tell you that. You might see the circle a lot with people's profiles, but it is a good conversation starter because since I've had the circle since, I guess, 2 months, at least a dozen people have asked me about that. And that became, a trigger for someone to talk to me. So you can create that circle on Canva. I know some of you might be wondering how to do that. Just type in Google about how to create this circle around your LinkedIn profile picture, you'll get it. The next thing that people notice is your title. It is very important. I would say don't go overboard with your title. Don't have more than 3 of these divisions that you see here. So the first thing you want to say is, a strong keyword that relates to what you're doing or what you will be doing soon. So in my case, I am a product manager, and I also spend a fair share of my time writing. So I put that there as a product manager and writer. In your case, let's say you're an incoming master student at Duke University. Just put that there, because that's what you're going to be doing soon. If let's say you're working right now, then you can say that you're also a software engineer or you're also a product manager. So once you put that, some more recommendations for what you can put there would be, let's say you were the head of marketing at the aerodynamics club in your university. I'm just making stuff up. But even the things that you were part of in your college, your clubs and organizations where I'm sure you spent a lot of your time, it's definitely worth putting that here. And finally, any significant awards that you won, such as a Cargill scholarship or a MyTax scholarship, or I know that Microsoft has this Impact Championship Hackathon. So all of those are things which are impactful because they mean something. If you win something, it means you put a lot of effort into doing that. So it's worth mentioning. The next thing you see here is the summary. Again, I used to have a very long summary before because I thought that was better. But then over the years, I've noticed that whenever I go to someone's profile, the profiles that actually are memorable for me are the profiles which are concise and impactful in terms of the summary. So since then, I've slightly reduced the number of paragraphs I had, which was much more than what you see right now before. So in your summary, again, mention the things that really matter to you. In my case, what matters to me is creating products that improves people's lives and using the power of the written word to tell stories. So again, creating products and writing, which is kind of obvious from my profile. And you also see this Calendly link here. So I put this here because if let's say someone wants to talk to me, they can go here and book a slot. But it's not a slot every single day, but I've kept maybe 2 slots over the weekends if someone wants to talk. And it is a great way to just keep in touch with people who want to talk to you. In your case, let's say there's a student who is currently doing their 12th grade or 11th grade who wants to talk to you. It's a great way for you to help people. And also, in general, I would just recommend creating a Calendly profile and adding your Google Calendar to that, or whichever calendar you have to that. Because then if even you want to talk to someone, you can just send them that link, and all they have to do is book a slot on your calendar, which takes like less than 30 seconds. So it is a very efficient way to schedule calls. Right. Next is the most important part of your profile, which is the experience. As much as possible, I like following the rule of 3. If you haven't heard of it, you should go read about it, because the rule of 3 says that whenever you're trying to explain a concept, always try using 3 bullet points, because it is concise, it is effective, and it is memorable. So I try to follow that wherever I can. And in this case, let's say in my experience, as you can see, I have 3 bullet points. So for the experience, I would recommend that have at least 1 or 2 lines as a summary. Let's say if I just tell you that I work in the data science security team, I don't think you understand what I do. So I would say spend 2 lines just explaining what you're trying to do. In my case, let's say I work in the detection and response team at Salesforce that is geared towards building ML models to stop security attacks. So that gives you some more context of what I do at Salesforce. And then you talk about your day-to-day operations, anything that you've built before, anything that you've worked on before. And as much as you can, I would say add numbers, because that speaks a lot. If you, let's say, saved $1 million for your company, that is amazing. You should put that there. Or if you've automated a process which currently saves 20 hours of manual work, that is something worth putting there. So try to put numbers as much as you can. Finally, if you have any public demos or if you have any blog posts that you wrote on your work there, I would recommend mentioning it here. Awesome. Let's go down to education. So apart from the basics, which includes your degree, your major, and optionally your CGPA, it's totally up to you. You don't have to put that there. I would say that apart from that, things to mention would be activities in societies. So I was part of a lot of organizations when I was in my undergrad, and they made up most of my experience in college. So I put a lot of that in there. And apart from that, again, same as before, if you have any blog posts or demos or anything that you did in your college, it's worth adding that here as the media. Going down, we have licenses and certifications. So these are all of your Coursera courses, EDX courses, Khan Academy, Byju's, all the online courses you took, put that in there. any awards that you might have gotten before, that's also worth putting in there. Skills is a very interesting section because I've gotten varied advice over the years. To be honest, I put public speaking probably 5 years ago when I made the LinkedIn profile, and I wish I did not, because I honestly think unless I am a public speaker who, let's say, goes out and talks every few weeks, and that is a part of my career, I should not have put public speaking there. But somehow people endorsed me for it over the years, so I just kept it. But if not, I would recommend that you have concrete skills like machine learning or project management, Scrum Master training, Tableau, Python. All of these are much more comprehensible than vague skills like public speaking, leadership, teamwork, which is fine if that takes up a huge part of your life. But if not, I would recommend not putting them there. And then we have the recommendations. So I would say that you should get recommendations from people that you worked with or people that you worked under. So in this case, let's say for Ariel was my mentor when I was interning at Salesforce back in 2018, and so I asked him for recommendations. So I know Roshni said that she's also okay with recommendations from other people, and I think that's just difference of opinion. So feel free to take both advice and then go with the one that feels most intuitive for you, and read about it as well online. But I would say absolutely get recommendations on your profile, because if I was a recruiter and I saw someone's profile with an excellent recommendations from someone who has a credible background, that would completely change my perception of this candidate. And I would want to talk to him or her. And recommendations are also a two-way street. If you're going to get recommendations, also know that when someone approaches you for giving them recommendations, you should be open to doing that. Finally, we have the awards, courses, projects, languages, test scores. To be honest, it is not fun, adding all of this. And, I actually added details on all of these projects. And I did all of this over the summer because I knew most people won't see this on my profile. Even right now, I'm sure that out of X people who have visited my profile, maybe 5% actually went through the entire profile and saw all of these details. But the ones that do see this, they would really appreciate the fact that I took time to do all of this. And I think summer is the best time for you to do all this, because you're at home and you're having good food, and just play some music in the background and start filling this in. And finally, whenever you're making a change on your LinkedIn profile, I think Roshni also mentioned this, make sure that you share this with your network. Just another way to let them know what you're up to. All right. Hopefully that was helpful for you. I'm going to switch back to my presentation right now and continue with this. While LinkedIn is indeed helpful, it is not the only platform out there. As you can see, there are several others. There's ZipRecruiter, AngelList, which is more so for startups. There's Indeed, there is Career Builder. I highly recommend creating profiles on all of them to increase your visibility. And again, I know it's not a fun job because you need to pretty much just copy and paste the same content in all websites because they all have the same structure and formatting. So I would say, go to your Spotify playlist, play your favorite songs, and just, whenever you're free, do this. So that's the first task for you. The second task for you over the summer would be to educate yourself. The very, very small silver lining of this entire horrible pandemic is that online e-learning platforms have opened up their courses for free for you. We live in this wonderful era where education is completely democratized. The brilliance of, let's say, a Harvard professor isn't limited to his or her classroom anymore. Everyone has access to it, thanks to online courses. So, course, based on, again, some preliminary research from my side, I saw that Coursera and EDX have opened up their platforms for universities that have been affected by COVID. Simply Learn is offering free certificate courses in hot topics like machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, and more. Yoon Academy is offering 20,000 free live classes. And finally, GUI, which is an e-learning platform incubated out of IIT Madras, is offering a 30-day free webinar. And I know right now you're thinking, I get it, there are so many courses out there, but how do I narrow it down? And which courses do I go out for? Because the problem is there is something called the paradox of choice. when there's too much choice, it's actually more deteriorating than when there was no choice. So to help you figure that out, I would say think of this as from 3 different quadrants. First is the domain specific courses. Let's say you're a physics major. I would say that you could think about taking courses, let's say in quantum mechanics, or I'm just making some stuff up here, but my underlying point is that whatever your domain is, chemical engineering, biomedical, physics, linguistics, whatever it is, think about the advanced courses in those domains and seek out those. You can even think of, you can even pick the graduate courses which you will eventually study in the next fall, the coming fall, and take that now itself to get a head start on everyone else. Second would be the hot topics. So we have all heard the terms machine learning, neural networks, cloud computing, blockchain, cybersecurity. But do you really understand what they mean? Because just knowing the words aren't enough. It is important to have at least a preliminary understanding of what that represents, because these technologies are what are shaping the progress over the next few decades. So pick one of these, learn about them, and see if they interest you, first of all. And if it does, then you can dive deeper into those. And finally, this is not something that I see people do often, but I really hope you guys do this. Pick a topic that is completely unrelated to your domain, but is still relevant to you as a person. One of the best books that I've read is on social psychology. It was not on, let's say, product management or chemical engineering. And one of the best courses that I've taken at Columbia was on negotiation skills. So, and also ethics in AI will probably be the most important topic you can learn in the next few decades, seeing as how things are heading right now. So all these topics might not have been relevant maybe a century ago, but today, if you want to be well-rounded and be aware of what's happening and actively take choices which are ethical, I really feel that these courses, you can't escape them. So think about taking a few of these courses. You don't have to take all of them, and I haven't taken all of them either. I would just say that I wish I had a summer where I could just sit and learn about these courses. So I really hope you guys do that. And finally, this is the perfect time to start rewriting your favorite document, which is your resume. For those who don't know what a resume is a one-page summary, not the gist, just the summary of your past work experiences, skills, and education. So I know the format you've been following so far might include like 4 pages, details of your age, your parents' name, your history, everything about your clubs in college. I say this because that's exactly how my resume looked just a few years ago. So let me break some myth right now about the resume and tell you what a resume should have. One, a resume has to be within 1 pages. Oh, sorry, it has to be within 1 page. My brother always tells me that have 1 page of a resume for every 10 years of experience. And I'm assuming most of you don't have 10 years of experience right now. So try to limit it to just 1 page. Two, it has to be aesthetically pleasing and specific to the job role. And finally, it should contain keywords which a software can pick up. What Rob mentioned earlier, which is the ATS tracker. This is my resume template that I made based on some changes from the Columbia template that was sent to me a few years ago. So a few things that you can notice here. First is, of course, the name is prominent, but apart from that, there are these different sections. There's education, experience, projects, skills, honors or awards, and leadership experience, which is your clubs and organizations. Second is each of these topics have the details on the side, which is where were you when you did that and how long did you do that? This is very important. When it comes to experience specifically, as I've said here, I don't know if you guys can see this, it is pretty small, but try to include as many quantitative facts as you can. What I said before about LinkedIn, try to include numbers because people love numbers. Talk about the amount of money you saved or the amount of hours you saved for someone. Second is follow the situation, action, and result framework. Talk about what you were working on and what you accomplished. And finally, do not have more than 3 or 4 bullet points with concise content, not crossing 2 lines. I know that we all love to talk about what we did before, but a resume is actually about taking stuff out and not putting stuff in. it is about rigorous prioritization. So, there are many other templates out there, but this is the one that I follow because I like the fact that it has breathing room. Because when you see this resume, it's not completely cluttered. You still have white spaces here and there to make sure that the resume has some, breathing room, as I said. And finally, I would say when it comes to the skills section, I like categorizing skills into proficient and basic because let's face it, I'm not an expert in everything. So I would also recommend that you have different categorization of the skills because you might be at different levels for Python versus SQL. So make that distinction there. This is another resume format. I haven't made an interactive resume for myself yet, but for all of you very artistic people out there, this is a great chance to show your imaginative skills. Uh, what I would actually say is first take a course on Tableau and then use that knowledge to create a resume, because then you can actually connect the dots and connect the theoretical concepts you've learned to something that's actually useful for you in the future. And now we come to an even more fun document, which is the cover letter. People dread writing this because it involves writing, and this brings you memories of your statement of purpose, I'm sure. But don't worry, there are many templates out there, and the one that I really like is this one. So a few things that I like here. First is the person who created this. He or she starts with their current job title. They talk about the number of years of experience they have, and they clearly mention what role they're looking for. So they go straight to the point in the first paragraph itself. Very important. People don't like when you beat around the bush. Second, they talk briefly about their long-term aspirations, which I believe are important. And finally, most importantly, this table is the one that catches your attention as soon as you see this, because it connects the qualifications from your past to the requirements for the job that is there today. And that's important because I know that as someone who's on the other side working with recruiters and hiring managers right now, what we actually look for is, if we have a job role, we want someone who has relevant experience specific to that job role, because we're looking for someone who can bring something to the table, bring something unique and which is useful for us as well. So I would say, if you can, when you're creating the cover letter, make this table, pick sentences from the job requirement. Let's say for a product manager, one of the most common requirements you see is someone who has worked cross-functionally before, someone who can convert complex complex ideas into simple thoughts, or someone who has worked with users before. So I can pick these sentences and then talk about how this specific past qualification of mine is exactly relevant to this specific requirement that you guys have. So this saves a lot of time for the recruiters, and they would really appreciate that. Finally, tying all of this together, this slide has a lot of resources, and I'm sure Rob will send this presentation to you guys, so don't worry about that. You will get all of these links. So just going through the links, you have the university template. So every university sends their own templates to the students. You must have gotten, maybe not yet, but in the next few months, you will get an email from your university sending you a template that they have created for you guys. Because the one that I have right now is based on Columbia's template. And then I have my resume template. Feel free to use that if you like it. Then there are some templates, really cool templates from overleaf.com, which is a favorite website of mine. There are the interactive resume templates. Tableau has a whole gallery of them. There is the cover letter template and the ATS checker. So how many of you know what an ATS is? Can you guys put in the chat box if you know? Let's see. Advanced tracking system. Very close. Okay, someone got it. So the ATS is an applicant tracking system, and it's a very simple concept. All it does is it takes your resume, it breaks down all of the words from the resume, it parses it out, and then it compares if the words you have on your resume relate to any of the words in the job role. It is an extremely simple software, but it can make or break your career, because if you don't have the right keywords, then a recruiter won't even see your resume at that point. So I've linked a very interesting article on how to include powerful keywords in your resume. It's a very long article, but I would recommend going through it if you're crafting your resume from scratch. And finally, the final resource that I hope will help you is my book. So I have not shared the name of the book to anyone until now publicly, and I've also not shown anyone a glimpse into how it looks like. So I'm really excited that you guys are the first ones to know. So the name is gonna be, drum rolls please, Admitted, a primer on graduate school application process. So we're still playing around with the, primer on grad school. We might change that, but we're gonna go with the name Admitted for now. I hope you guys like that. So who is this book for? I would say this book is for anyone who has the dream to study abroad, but just needs some guidance to get there, like I did a few years ago. Back then, I had to do all of the research myself, and I really wish I had this one-stop handbook that just covered everything, like an Amazon for graduate school application process. Everything that I needed is in one place. So I pitched this idea to a junior of mine from NIT, and he was very excited for it. So we've been working on this for almost 5 months now, and we're close to the finish line in finishing the book. It covers everything from prompting you to think about, do you even need to go abroad to do what you're trying to do right now, all the way until you think about, I got my admit. What do I need to do this summer to maximize the ROI, which is kind of what I'm telling you right now. So it covers everything in between, from, let's say, narrowing down your universities to writing the SOP, which I'm sure you all had a blast doing, applying for scholarships, preparing for GRE, TOEFL, and everything in between. So this is a glimpse of how the book looks like. Again, I have not shown this to anyone, and I really hope you guys like it. You can notice a few things on the book. The book first will have illustrations. It'll have beautiful illustrations throughout. And I say beautiful only because I did not make them. We hired a junior who's very talented graphic designer from NIT as well. So it'll have a lot of illustrations throughout the book. Next is, it'll have history. I'm a huge fan of history, learning the history of different things. So I truly believe that the only way to understand why things are the way they are is to go back and see where it all began. So I've added history of small things here and there, so you guys can learn about that. And then there are these linked resources throughout the book. I believe so far we've added about 150 links to external resources that you can see beyond the book. So you have more things to refer to. And finally, actionable examples. So we're not going to tell you, hey, go and create a great resume, because that's impossible. Rather, we're trying to walk you through the entire process and create one from scratch along with you. So we've tried our best to do this throughout the book. And I know many of you here already have admits from universities, so this is probably not helpful for you. In which case, I would really appreciate if you guys can help us create a database of GRE and TOEFL scores. All you have to do is, go to this link, just spend 2 minutes filling that Google form, and anonymously give your GRE and TOEFL score. It'll be very helpful for us to create this database, which will be used by future applicants. And finally, thank you so much for patiently listening to me all this time. I hope you're not bored yet. This is how you can keep in touch. So for the book, we literally just created the Instagram page 1 day ago. So you'll probably see one post so far, which is this picture you see on the screen. But we're going to have a lot more activity over the next few weeks. We're going to have weekly Ask Me Anythings where we hear about what you'd be interested to learn about in the book. And I know even if you don't need the book right now since you got the admit, again, I would just really appreciate if you can let your juniors and friends know about it who might be applying in the future. So whoever is interested, you can go to this link, bsoundarya.com/ebook, and put your name in there, in which case you would be the very first one to know when we publish it. And you would also get the early bird discounted price of the book. And finally, keeping in touch with me, you can follow the Curious Maverick on Instagram for what I believe are fun life stories. For the not so fun professional stories and articles, I would say head over to LinkedIn and follow me there. I also have the bi-weekly dose of knowledge. So if you're interested in that, you can subscribe to the newsletter. And I would super appreciate if you can share your feedback on this session and whether it was useful, what you liked about it on LinkedIn, and tag me there. So, thank you so much for listening. I'm actually so energized right now after talking for, I guess, 30 minutes or so. So I'm going to shut up and see if you guys have any questions. And a final note to you all would be, there is always a silver lining to any situation. You just need to look for it. And I hope I get to meet some of you in the future. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Great job, Soundarya. Give Pooja a big hand. Tell her what you guys are thankful for, what you liked in the comments. And we'll do a couple questions real quick before we transition to Parth. Thanks so much. And yeah, check out her book. Follow those links. Sign up. Help her get the GRE and TOEFL scores if you guys are willing to share those. And I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to read it. So I definitely want to be one of the first ones to read it as well. So
thank you so much.
The only sad thing about a digital copy is I can't get you to sign it.
No, we're printing it as well.
Okay, awesome. Great.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
I think I have two questions that I was saying over here. First one was, how did you get your full-time at Salesforce?
I'll try to be brief on that. So I applied to Salesforce, I think in the month of September 1st in 2017. I got rejected right away. And then I applied for a very similar role again in the month of February in 2018. Again, every time I applied to any of these companies, it was always through a referral, because I knew that if I didn't apply through a referral, I won't be able to even track the application. Because if you apply through a referral, at least they can see what stage it's at, and they can tell you the name of the hiring manager and the recruiter, so I can reach out to them. So in the month of February, I applied again, did not hear back for almost 6 weeks. And then they got back to me one day. I almost cried when I got the email. And then the entire process took just 2 weeks. It was, phone interview, video interview, another video interview, and then they gave me the offer. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
Yes, and the other question was the book on social psychology that you liked or that you were talking about.
Yeah,
I want to read that.
So you've probably heard of it. These are very famous books. But two books I would recommend is Thinking Fast and Slow, which probably is one of the greatest psychology books of all time. And the second one is called Predictably, Irrational. It's a very interesting title.
All right, Pooja, Vishwas asked here, what are the courses I should do if I want to go in the field of project management or Scrum Master? How do you build my profile to become a project manager? Currently, they're a bachelor student of CS in India and will do a master's in MIS in US. Do you have any helpful tips?
For any of these roles of product, program, project, which all sound blurry, but there are some clear distinctions, once you start working on projects. But what a project manager does at the end of the day is they need to have an incredible sense of multitasking and collaborating between different teams, because you're the person who has to make sure that everyone else is doing their job and everyone else is keeping track of what they're doing. So I would say for Scrum Master training, there are some professional certification courses. There is the PMP certification. The only thing is, I believe it is paid. So if you're not financially equipped to do that, I would recommend don't go for that. I think the only thing I would recommend in your grad school is take up as many courses which have a project component as possible. So I had a course called Operations Consulting at Columbia, where I worked with 3 companies in New York throughout the year in a team of 8, in a very multicultural team of 8. So that gave a very realistic representation of how it would look like when I work in a real job, because we were working on real problems for these startups in New York. So pick as many courses as possible that help you give a taste of what real life looks like.
We have several people, Pooja, asking what a cover letter is. Would you mind briefly sharing what a cover letter is?
Yeah, of course. A cover letter, I would say, is a document that is not read often, and it is always optional when you apply for any job, but it is what someone would read after they read your resume, most probably. So first they read your resume, they think if you're even qualified for the role, and then if they want to know you further, they would go to your cover letter and see if you can expand more on the things that you already have in your resume. So think about it as very similar to a resume versus an SOP. So in your resume, you just state the facts. And in your SOP, you kind of elucidate why you're trying to pursue this master's. So similarly, in your cover letter, you have to elucidate why you want this job and how your past experiences have helped you. It is also a great place to show your penmanship if you're a good writer.
All right, one last question. Is it a good idea to use the resume feature on LinkedIn as your actual name?
Your resume name as your actual name?
Mm-hmm. Best, is it good to use, for the resume feature on LinkedIn, is it good to use your actual name? Do you know what that means?
I don't know what that means, actually.
Okay.
Resume feature on LinkedIn. Maybe Roshni might know? I don't know.
Yeah, but what is the motivation? Because I know a lot of people kind of have two different names. Like for example, my Chinese friend, she has an American name and she has an like a Chinese name. So she has to kind of like always decide between which one she wants to use. But I want to ask this person like, what is the motivation of this thing, like having a different name in your resume and in your I think you should use the same name, because especially as international students, I don't want to mess up with anything. A lot of times our EAD, a lot of times our applications, CPT letters, I-20, everything is kind of based off on our passport name. So I would just use that one. I would not want to kind of do anything else. So that's what would be my suggestion.
So Rob, I see one question, if you don't mind,
Sure.
on Columbia
Do one
MSNE
more.
program. Yeah. So someone says your thoughts on Columbia MSNE. So MSNE is Management Science and Engineering, which the best way to represent would be a blend of an MBA along with a ton of courses on mathematics and engineering. So you have a few core courses, which are, optimization and technology, optimization techniques, probability, statistics, and operations consulting. But apart from these four, you have the chance to take 8 courses split between the Columbia Business School and the Columbia Engineering School. You can even go and take a course from the public Columbia Journalism School if you want. So what I love about the course is the flexibility to mix and match from different fields. So if you aren't sure of your master's yet, and if you have this strong inclination towards, let's say, management and technology and research, go for this master's, because it'll give you the flexibility to do what you want.
Awesome. Pooja, thanks so much. That was great. I know myself and many people are going to be excited for your book. We'll make sure we get people the links and all the updates on that and access to that presentation. Thanks so much for watching. We hope this video was really helpful to guide you guys in your journey to success. There's a couple ways you guys can say thanks. One is filling out the feedback form, whether the link is in the description. That's going to help us put on more webinar events like this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channels of all the presenters to show your support and help us to help you guys. And lastly, connect with us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to tag us. You can recommend us. We really want to help you guys out in your journey to success here in America. Cheers.